What is going on, everybody? Tyler Brandt back here with another video, and we continue camp week. It's the opening week of NFL training camps. Everyone's reporting. Teams are getting training camp underway, especially and even in New England, which is why this week on the channel we are having a Patriots camp week, a video every day this week covering different battles in training camp and different interesting storylines coming into training camp. So Monday we had the fullback battle, even though Danny Vitale retired, so that is pretty much not a thing anymore. On Tuesday, we had the kicker situation in New England with Justin Rohrwasser, and the new kicker is something that New England has never had to deal with in the last 2 decades. And today we are talking about the wide receiving group, the wide receiving room, and it's not really too much drama or not too storylined in this season's wide receiver room. Basically, to break it down, in this year's iteration of the wide receivers in New England, there's 3 guys that we know are safe, and Matthew Slater. Slater, of course, is the special teams captain, but he is also listed and he is a wide receiver. That's the spot he takes up on the depth chart. So with that being said, we have Julian Edelman that we know is safe. We have Mohamed Sanu that we know will play for New England this season. And we have N'Keal Harry that we know will play for New England. So those 3 and Matthew Slater make up 4 of maybe 5 or 6 wide receivers that New England will roll with in 2020. However, if you go onto New England's website and you look at their depth chart, there's currently 12 wide receivers on the depth chart. So clearly something there doesn't make sense, and we know that they're going to have to cut a lot of bait in the wide receiver room in the next month before the regular season starts. So basically, this video today is about who makes it, who is that 5th receiver or maybe the 5th and 6th receiver that get onto the team that have a shot in the 2020 regular season. So I figured we'd start by narrowing down the guys that, you know, probably have very little to no shot of actually making the final 53-man roster. So we're going to start at the bottom of the depth chart, and we'll work our way up to the guys that I think are the locks to be the 5 and 6 or have the best shot to be 5 and maybe 6 in New England. So we're going to start at the bottom of the list. And first we're going to start with Quincy Adeboyo. He's signed to a futures contract, so he'll probably be a practice squad player for a year or 2. The same thing goes for Devin Ross, also signed to a futures contract. Probably isn't expected to be a producer in New England for the next couple years at least. And finally, unfortunately, I'm in the, I think, minority of guys that think that it'll happen, but it's going to be Jeff Thomas, the Miami wide receiver. Of course, immensely talented, we know, but he had some troubles and some off-the-field issues that really stunted his ability to compete at a high level, especially in Division I, and to get drafted. Now, I know he's immensely talented, and he may be able to crack a spot, but the thing is, there's going to be extremely limited practices, so he's going to have to come in with very limited on-the-field opportunity and make a name for himself. And as much as I would enjoy that, and I think it would be cool, reality of the situation that we're in, I just don't think that it's going to work. Next up, we have guys that I still don't think are going to make it, but maybe have a little bit of a better shot. The first person I'm going to put here is Will Hastings. I don't really think that he's going to make it, but he fits a role that New England's had with Wes Welker, with Julian Edelman. Will Hastings kind of fits physically that mold, so I think that's why maybe he has, if anything, a marginally better shot. And then another one that I think maybe a marginally better shot than Will Hastings, and that's Gunnar Olszewski. I know how good he was, and I know that he has a ton of versatility as a special teamer, as a return specialist, things like that. But between them drafting Kyle Duggar, who also is a return specialist, and just the lack of space on this roster, I don't necessarily see room for Gunnar on this year's New England team. I'm pretty sure he's still practice squad eligible, so if he doesn't get picked up, I think he'll be on New England's practice squad for sure, but there's going to be tough cuts in this specific, season. And again, with the limited practicing and the limited opportunities in training camp, I just don't think that he's going to have enough opportunity to make that next step. So the final 3 guys are the 3 guys I think that are most realistically in a position to make the roster. Now, I think, in my gut, I think New England's going to have 5 receivers this year. I know in the last couple years they've taken 6, but I think something tells me for now, to enter the season, there's going to be 5. I just think between the linebackers and the defensive players that have just left and the guys that are opting out, and Marcus Cannon opting out, stuff like that, I think they're going to need to sign or hold a couple extra guys that they've drafted to get into the regular season, guys that they think that can come in and make a difference. At least that's my thinking with it. So I think that New England's only going to take 5 wide receivers into the regular season, at least at first. So the last 3 guys on this list, of course, are Damiere Byrd, Marquise Lee, and Jakobi Meyers. Now, we know Marquise Lee, he had the one very good year in 2016, 63 receptions, 851 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was his best season in an NFL uniform. Since then, he's been injured. It's the only season he's played 16 games in his career. He's a good receiver. You know, he's not really, I don't think he wows you. At least he hasn't been healthy enough to wow anybody in recent memory. But he is a good receiver. Next up on the list, we have, of course, Jakobi Meyers, who, when his number was called, he was very good in New England. Every time that he needed to move the chains or was in a position where he needed to get the ball, he, for the most part, really showed up, and he did pretty good. Finally, we have Damiere Byrd. Of course, Damiere Byrd was signed this offseason as a free agent, like Marquise Lee, and this one is a little interesting. He has played a lot of games with Cam Newton. He's really been a deep ball receiver primarily in his career. However, he hasn't really had the stats to put it up. He was drafted to be a stretch the field deep ball receiver. So for that reason, I think the most likely wide receiver to make, if they're going to carry 5 into the regular season to make it, I think he's going to be Damiere Byrd. I think his familiarity with Cam Newton gives him a little bit of an edge if Cam's going to have that spot. And beyond that, I think if he can hit, he gives New England something different than what they have. Damiere Byrd is the only person on this entire roster that can go straight down the line and burn you time after time, at least when he's given an opportunity to. So he's been very limited, but I think he is the only guy that can really be a straight line burner on this entire list of wide receivers. Now, again, I think New England will take 5 into the regular season. That's my gut. But if they do go with 6, and it's between Marquise Lee and Jakobi Meyers, unless somebody has an outstanding camp, I think it's probably, in my opinion, and my gut tells me, Jakobi Meyers. I think the familiarity with New England in their system helps him a lot and gives him a big advantage. He caught 41 balls in 2019 in 15 games. Every time they asked, you know, for his number, he showed up, and he was good enough. So I think he's earned a spot, if there is a spot for him on this roster going into the regular season. For Marquise Lee, he's talented. He was a great college wide receiver, but I just don't see how he gives you much versatility different than a guy like Mohamed Sanu, a guy like N'Keal Harry. I don't see much of a difference in their play style that he should stay on the roster over a Jakobi Meyers. So with that being said, going into 2020, my gut feeling is the wide receiver room will be N'Keal Harry, Mohamed Sanu, Julian Edelman, Damiere Byrd, and Matthew Slater. If they take 6, then you would throw all those names in there, and then you would also add Jakobi Meyers. I'm not sure. Again, I don't know much from other than what I've seen New England do recently, but I think they're going to end up taking 5 because I think they're going to need some versatility to bring in some offensive linemen and some linebackers, especially with the last couple days and going into the 2020 regular season. But that is going to do it for this video on the wide receiver position in New England. Who do you think makes it? Who do you think doesn't make it? You think any of these undrafted free agents have an opportunity to get in and actually make the opening day roster for New England? Leave a comment down below and let me know. Again, follow me on Instagram at TalkingPats, on Twitter at @TheTylerBrant, and subscribe, share with a Patriot fan, share with a football fan. We're growing every single day, and I'm happy to have you along for the journey. And anyone else that is here, you're more than welcome. And we're a great community. We're a great small community here on YouTube. But until next time, I'm Tyler Brandt. Be safe, be good, and I'll catch you on the next video.